Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Angela Prichard. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Angela Marie Prichard was born on April 14, 1967, and was raised in Dubuque, Iowa. At some point, she married, had 2 sons, and divorced. In 2017, Angela became romantically involved with a man named Christopher Eugene Prichard. He had also been married and divorced. The couple lived in a 2,600 square foot 4-bedroom house on State Street in Bellevue, Iowa. This is about 20 miles south of Dubuque. In March 2019, Angela and Christopher married. To make a living, Angela owned a pet boarding business called the Mississippi Ridge Kennels on Highway 52 in Bellevue. Christopher worked as an electrician. Before moving to the timeline of the crime, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, FlexiSpot. The FlexiSpot Recliner XL6 is a chair packed with convenient features. With dual motors, a user can independently control the backrest and the footrest and even recline nearly flat. The chair, which is easy to assemble, is available in 4 sizes, supporting up to 440 pounds. It has massage functions, heat, convenient side pockets, a USB charging port, and the headrest can be manually adjusted. In my time using the chair, I found it to be comfortable and relaxing. It has just the right amount of support. The chair is amazingly flexible and can be positioned for anything I feel like doing, like watching TV, reading, or resting. Considering how it can be reclined nearly flat, it even works well for a quick nap after a long day of researching and recording videos. The FlexiSpot Recliner XL6 is a great value, especially in light of the premium features. Lift chairs with these abilities usually cost about $2,000, but this chair is priced at around $500. Check it out by clicking on the link below and use my exclusive code DrGrande50 for an extra $50 off. Save $50 on one recliner or $100 on 2. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On November 14, 2019, Christopher Prichard was arrested and charged with first-degree theft. He had allegedly stolen $36,000 worth of supplies from his employer. He was released on bond. Over the next few years, Christopher managed to get this case delayed 31 times. In 2021, Angela indicated that she observed Christopher using methamphetamine. Despite this alarming development, the couple continued to live together. On April 18, 2022, Angela contacted the police and said that Christopher struck her in the face. The police arrested Christopher and a no-contact order was put in place. Angela wanted to reconcile with Christopher, therefore she had the no-contact order terminated. Sometime in July or August 2022, Angela found 2 hidden cameras in her house and a tracking device on her vehicle. She suspected that Christopher was responsible and reported her discoveries to the police, but they did not take any action. On August 23, 2022, Christopher sent threatening text messages to Angela, including one that said, quote, "It was going to get real blanking ugly," unquote. Angela notified the police, but they did not do anything. On August 28, Christopher informed Angela that he would destroy her business, referring to the kennel that she operated. She reported this threat to the police, but no action was taken. On September 1, Christopher was served with a temporary restraining order, which prevented him from being near Angela. He moved out of the family house. When Angela returned to the house, the doors were bolted, the utilities were shut off, and the inside had been vandalized. Furniture was turned over, paint and ink was on the floor, and a mattress had been smeared with dog feces. On September 7, Angela called the police and told them that Christopher violated the restraining order by going to the kennel and cutting the grass. The police told her that she needed to contact her attorney. 2 days later, on September 9, Christopher drove by Angela's house. He continued doing this over the next few days. On one night, he drove past her house 6 times in the span of 1 hour. The police were notified, but decided to take no action. On September 12, 2022, Christopher made his way to Angela's house and complained about credit cards he believed Angela had opened in his name. The police were contacted, but did not do anything. On September 15, Christopher left a note on the steps of Angela's house and sent her a text message. This time, the police tried something new. They arrested Christopher for violating the temporary restraining order. He spent one night in jail and was ordered to appear in court on September 23. 2 days later, Angela told the police that Christopher had placed signs in a store window of a shop that he owned. The signs contained negative comments about her. No action was taken by the police. That same day, Christopher was spotted hiding in a lumber yard near the house where Angela was staying at the time. The police were notified, but took no action. On September 23, Christopher missed his court appearance. He claimed that he was told it was September 29. The hearing was rescheduled for that date. On September 29, Christopher failed to show up for the hearing. He was sentenced to 6 days in jail for violating the restraining order. When Christopher failed to turn himself in the next day to serve his jail time, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Despite this, the police did not arrest him. Angela moved back into her house on State Street. She asked the police to be alert because Christopher had threatened her. On October 7, the temporary restraining order against Christopher was converted into a permanent restraining order. On the next day, October 8, 2022, just after 7:30 a.m., Angela called 911 from the kennel where she worked. She can be heard having a conversation with another person. Angela said, "Please get out of here. I have customers coming in. Will you please get out of here, Chris?" Right after Angela said the name Chris, the sound of a firearm discharging could be heard. Angela did not make any statements after this. Another voice could be heard saying the words, "Blank you." When the police arrived, they found Angela face down in the washroom of the kennel. She had died from a gunshot wound to her chest. The weapon used to kill her was a 20-gauge shotgun. A surveillance camera had captured the sound of dogs barking at 4:20 a.m. The police suspected that the dogs barked because Christopher made entry into the kennel at that time to wait for Angela to report to work. At 7:34 a.m., Angela arrived at the kennel and parked her Jeep out front. At 7:39 a.m., a surveillance camera recorded the sound of a gunshot. 2 minutes later, a man who looked like Christopher could be seen leaving the kennel. The police launched a massive search to find Christopher. They were contacted at 12:30 a.m., now on October 9, by friends of Christopher who said that he was asleep in their house. The police arrived and arrested Christopher without incident. The friends indicated that Christopher stopped by earlier and talked about how he had killed his wife, Angela. They did not immediately contact the police because they were afraid that he would murder them. When Christopher fell asleep, they made their move and contacted law enforcement. Christopher was still asleep when the police arrived. Officers found a shotgun that Christopher had brought with him into the house. It was an H&R Model 088 single-barrel 20-gauge shotgun. This shotgun was the murder weapon. Christopher did not deny shooting his wife with the shotgun, but claimed it was an accident. Less than a year and a half later, on February 13, 2024, Christopher Prichard was found guilty of first-degree murder and robbery. On March 22 of that same year, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now moving to my analysis. Christopher maintains his innocence. He told the police that he paid a visit to Angela and they argued. Angela shoved him. He ended up running into a cabinet and the shotgun mysteriously discharged. In another version of his story, Christopher said the shotgun was leaning against a cupboard. When he went to pick up a backpack, the shotgun fell to the floor and mysteriously discharged. The state, of course, disagrees with the idea that Christopher is innocent. They argue that he admitted to the shooting, and the accident claim is difficult to believe. This brings me to the question, was Christopher guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Christopher had a long history of threatening, stalking, and harassing his wife Angela, and, on one occasion, allegedly struck her in the face. He made his way to the kennel on the day of the shooting by borrowing a pickup truck and parking it in a barn owned by friends a few miles away from the kennel. Christopher left a note in the truck saying that he was hunting. He then hiked through the woods to the kennel and probably arrived there over 3 hours before the shooting. Again, a surveillance camera captured the sound of dogs barking. After the shooting, Christopher can be heard saying the words "blank you." That seems like an unusual statement to make after an accident. Christopher told the police that Angela shouted expletives at him after she was shot. The 911 call didn't pick up anything like that. Angela didn't make any statements after the shotgun was discharged. Christopher did not render aid to his wife, he did not call emergency services, and he took her cell phone and credit cards. Angela was shot in the center of her chest. Out of all the places the shotgun could have been pointed during a negligent discharge, it just happened to be pointed at her chest. That's difficult to believe. The trajectory was consistent with Christopher firing downward, but according to his story, the shotgun would have been lower. The hammer must be cocked in order to fire an H&R Model 088. It is essentially the same design as the shotguns made by New England Firearms. If the hammer was not cocked, pulling the trigger would not have discharged the weapon. There is no reason the hammer should have been cocked based on Christopher's version of events. Moving to the exculpatory factors, there were no witnesses to the shooting, no video. Technically, it could have been accidental. That's pretty much it for the exculpatory factors. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Christopher is guilty? Yes, in my opinion, he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. There is almost no doubt in this case. While Christopher's guilt may be clear, another issue associated with this case has caused division. A lawsuit was filed on behalf of Angela's estate against the Bellevue Police Department, accusing them of causing Angela's death by malfeasance, recklessness, or intentional behavior. Essentially, the lawsuit argued that the police failed to enforce the law, which made it easy for Christopher to murder Angela. There was a state-created danger in this case. A judge dismissed the lawsuit, saying that he was skeptical that more aggressive conduct by the officers would have changed the outcome. He agreed that the police failed to act, but did not believe they engaged in affirmative acts which put Angela in a worse position than she already was with Christopher. The judge implied that Christopher was going to kill Angela no matter what anyone did. The 6 days in jail, which Christopher would have served if the police arrested him, would have not kept Angela alive. I can appreciate the point the judge is trying to make, but in my opinion, the police department was reckless. They knowingly disregarded a clear risk to Angela's safety. At the time she was murdered, there was a warrant out for Christopher's arrest. His location would not have been hard to determine. The police could have easily found him if they wanted to. With Christopher's long history of threats, any reasonable person would have viewed him as a clear danger to Angela. The behavior of the police was unacceptable. As far as the idea that no actions by the police could have stopped Christopher, that is kind of a defeatist attitude. Even if he was as unstoppable as the Terminator, officers should have tried to prevent him from causing harm. Is quitting really a good tactic for law enforcement to adopt? Should they be the ones surrendering? The police just give up because an aspiring killer is determined? That seems like it's setting a bad precedent. It's amazing how inconsistent the law is enforced on certain occasions. Some police departments would prefer to call in a SWAT team because a teenager is selling lemonade without a permit, while other departments will ignore an arrest warrant for a dangerous offender. Now moving to my final question, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. When Angela and Christopher became romantically involved, they each viewed it as a second chance to recapture a life filled with love. Unfortunately, their dream turned into a nightmare due to Christopher's substance use and destructive personality characteristics. He was self-centered, impulsive, irresponsible, dominating, controlling, manipulative, deceptive, vindictive, petty, insecure, erratic, angry, violent, had low frustration tolerance, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. Despite all his flaws, Angela did not want the marriage to fall apart. She lifted the no-contact order, which was put in place after Christopher was arrested for striking her in the face. When she finally had enough and secured a restraining order, Christopher transformed into a stalker. The stalking behavior he demonstrated was a combination of 3 types. He wanted to reconcile and get revenge at the same time, like a rejected stalker. From the resentful stalker type, he intimidated, terrorized, and harassed Angela. Finally, Christopher used covert surveillance and prepared for an attack. He followed through with his plan and murdered Angela. These behaviors are consistent with a predatory stalker. The police did not have empathy for Angela. They were unable or unwilling to appreciate her feelings. The high level of fear that she experienced had no impact on the officers. They could have arrested Christopher, but they did not want to be bothered. Their conduct was reckless, yet amazingly, the lawsuit filed against them was dismissed. Unfortunately, this may only serve to reinforce their bad behavior in the future. Those are my thoughts in the case of Angela Prichard. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.